Okay, I want to go ahead and wrap this up with our last couple minutes. So this fisherman illegally introduced the fish into the lake. They quickly propagated, yay, invasive species. And we have this formula that describes the growth. P of X, or the population based on the weeks, that's what that notation means, is equal to 5 times B to the power of X. All right, so I'm going to write that down over here. The population in X weeks is equal to 5 times, we don't know our base, to the power of X. How many fish did the fisherman initially release into the lake? 5. How did you know?
Because it says the 5 with the P.
Yep. So y equals A times B to the power of T. Our initial amount is right here. It's always the number that doesn't have an exponent on it. So even if they try to get tricky and flip it around, you're looking for the one without an exponent. That's your initial amount. Find B if you know that the lake contains 33 fish after 8 weeks. What'd you guys come up with?
33 equals 5 to B to the 8th power.
33, so that went in for y, equals 5. We can't change our starting amount. B, you said to the 8th power. Why 33 and 8, where you put them?
Because we're trying to find out what B would be after there's 33 fish. So if you make 33 the Y, then you can solve it backwards to get B by itself.
Yes.
And then 8 for weeks because T represents time.
Yes. So here's our time for T. 33 is the Y output value. This is an amount of fish, and so it has to go in for our function notation there. So where'd you go from there?
Divide everything by 5.
Divide both sides by 5.
We get 6.6 equals B to the 8th.
6.6 equals B to the 8th power.
And square rooted, but with an 8 in the front.
Yes, so we do an 8th root here, which thankfully our calculators can do.
And you get about 1.27 equals B.
1.27. That's all they asked for on part B. I've got a question that goes just a little bit beyond what they asked for. That B value, 1.27, is that showing us growth or decay? Growth. How do you know?
Because it's more than 1.
Because it's more than 1. Growth. B is bigger than 1. What percent is this describing it growing by? 27%. 1.27, we can change it into a percent by timesing it by 100%. So I'd get 127%, and then we subtract the 100 because we subtract out what we've already got. And that's how we get 27% growth.
If the percent was 0, would you still call that growth?
If the percent was 0, that would actually be a decay. Well, sorry, like if we got here and it was 0,
Yeah.
that would not be growth, and it would also not be decay. That would just be constant. Yep, because if you multiply something by 100%, it's the same as multiplying it by 1. It's just going to stay the same. Yep. Okay, then we get to part C. Hypothetically, if the B value had been 2, so if we'd had the function rule as P of X equals 5 times 2 to the power of X, what would this mean the growth rate is?
It's greater than 2, so that means it's growing.
Yep.
But, so do you change it to 0.04? How do you get...
So we always take our B value and do what when we want to change it into a percent? Multiply it by 100.
You get 200. But
Yep.
then you subtract 100 and you get 100%. So what is that?
Yes.
I don't understand what that means.
You did this exactly right. Okay, so let's talk about that. We get 200%, we subtract out what we started with, which is 100%, and we end up with 100% growth weekly. I should probably say weekly growth instead of growth weekly. 100% weekly growth here. So let's talk about what that means. If my B value is 2, what are we multiplying by over and over and over? 2. If I multiply something by 2, how would we normally describe that? It doubles. So if I say something doubles, whatever I started with today, all of it, 100% of it, I would take that same amount and add it on. So I'd take 100% of what I've got and add it on top of what I already have. So changing this into common language, if you see that you have a 100% growth rate, it is doubling.
Oh, I remember you talking about that.
Every week. Yep. If we saw a 200% growth rate,
Tripling.
that'd be tripling. What about if we saw a 900% growth rate?
It's how do you say 8 something?
No, other way. 1,000. 1,000%, or it'd be times 10. It'd be 10 times as big instead of doubling, tripling, quadrupling.
Wait, what were you saying?
If it is 900% growth, what I'd figure out, like, what am I multiplying by each time? Well, if it's 100% growth, we're doubling each week. So if it's 900% growth, it's times 10 each week.
So how is it, so if you're doing 200, then why does it go down to 100? You know, 300 goes to 200. I mean, to 200, so it's double.
The question is whether you're talking about percent growth.
Wait, if it's not 100, then it goes to double.
Yes.
300 goes to,
It's always one more than the other.
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about? Which way are you talking about?
no, what's the one, give me 200%. That's
200% is tripling. Mhm.
Gotcha.
300% would be
Quadruple.
quadrupling, yes. So it's the difference between what is the growth. This will always be 100% less than what you would multiply by. So if we're saying the growth is 100%, that's always going to be on top of what we started with. Growth is going to be on top of what we've got. Decay is going to be taking away from it over time. How can we tell if something is decaying?
It has to be
It's less than 1.
Yep, when our B value is less than 1. The B value can't ever be negative. The growth rate could be negative. If I see that the growth rate is negative, that's decay.
Wait,
We always find our growth rate this way. You always take your B value, you multiply it by 100 to change it into a percent. You're always going to subtract off 100%. So if this number right here is not 100%, when you subtract, you'll get a negative. That means it would be describing decay instead of actual growth. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. Once again, no new homework tonight. Tomorrow is when you get your very last homework assignment of the semester. So hopefully you guys have been working on catching up on
You
things.
know what happened?
Good, good.
Miss Bo, did you see me?
I did. When do these assignments close?
May 13th.
May 13th. When is May 13th?
The day we have our test.
Day you have your test. Next Friday.
Is it actually?
Scary.
Yep.
That's so
Yep.
And then we will never have to be in this school ever again. Yay!
So after we do your test next Friday, we will spend Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday studying for the final. So we'll have 4 full in-class days to
And
study.
then the first part of final, right?
The Friday, when you take your 5th period final, that day you will take the multiple choice portion of this final also. So you'll have like a final and a half on that day. But I want to make sure you guys have plenty of time and you're not rushed on the short answer portion.
So much.